Hey y'all, it's Heel Heat time.
Hi everybody and welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles and this is our WWE show for the week. Let's jump right into it. We're going to start off, first off, there is no so-so. This was a very polarizing Raw. I either thought stuff was bad downright or good. So we'll start off with the bad. First things first, the U.S. title Battle Royal. Of the ways that you could lose a championship, I think this is the stupidest. There are very few things I enjoyed. I liked that Ryback actually looked strong during the Battle Royal. Much like 90% of America, I hated Santino getting rid of Dolph Ziggler. Sheamus winning it was... We've been there, done that kind of thing. Unless they turn Sheamus heel, which is rumored very soon, his character's kind of stale, and I'm just ready for someone else to have taken the ball. They could have given it to a Damian Sandow, anybody, any number of guys to make them, to build them up better. Hell, even Ziggler would have been a great U.S. champion at this point in his career. But next up was the utter embarrassment of the Los Matadors 3MB segment, Cinco de Mayo celebration, which perplexed me a bit because I don't know where they build Los Matadors for, but they're both from Puerto Rico, which is not Mexican, and they're out there celebrating a Mexican holiday. I think El Torito is Mexican now, so I guess that's okay. They try to have a truce between El Torito and Hornswoggle, which leads to a fight, which obviously the faces win, start throwing candy out to the crowd. It just was weird, and I don't know, when they try to get too cute with these holiday tie-in type things, it usually doesn't go well. Next up, we had Rusev, who somehow lost the Alexander part of his name. I guess people are only allowed to have one name in the WWE anymore. Versus Kofi Kingston. I did see some improvement in Rusev with his facial gestures. He did seem to get mad at one point in the match and get frustrated. I'm going to need to see more before I fully buy into him now. Especially being force-fed somebody like Kofi Kingston, who's got a ton load of talent that I don't know why they don't seem to tap into. And I saved this for last. It was kind of an ongoing thing through the night, the Kane, Daniel Bryan, Brie Bella saga. To me, it was a very Attitude Era-esque type segments in a bad way. Not in a good way. I've said it before, the Attitude Era was very hit and miss. This would have been a miss. First of all, you have your world champion running from a guy he just beat. Makes the world champion look weaker, in my opinion. He should not be afraid of Kane. First, he's a world champion. Second, he just beat him. And the whole thing with him in the car, all that stuff, it was just stupid to me. And just a waste of two great talents. I think they could be doing better, in my opinion. Now, coming off of that, we're going to go into our question of the week. The question of the week last week was, we were talking about Rusev, who was the most disappointing monster, one that didn't live up to their expectations, basically. First off, we have some answer from our friends. The first is from Closure Damas. He put the Colossus of Bago Road, Nathan Jones, back in 2003. It's really a shame because he could have been a major player in WWE. He had the look but had no talent at all. He even was voted the most embarrassing wrestler that year. That is a very good point. He's someone that probably is best off being forgotten, although obviously we didn't. But yeah, I agree. He was a farce. He did have a great look, though. Next up from our friend at AUP116 from Twitter. He puts The Wall, Reno, Big Papa Punk, Mike Awesome, and Goldberg. Now also added, I have to add one more for question of the week. Bill DeMott. I loved Hugh Morris in general direction of as a kid. Then I see him as a heel. As that heel. The only one I would really question, I rather enjoyed Scott Steiner's Big Papa Pump. More for the train wreck interviews. I thought he had something. Goldberg I wouldn't consider a failed monster. He got over as he should have. I think it was more of a failure of booking. But that is what it is. And next I have, last but not least, from our friend Benjamin Me. He put, I'd say the Big Show. He should have been booked as more of a more unstoppable than Kane. I can't be doing with a 7-foot, 440-pound man crying on television when Austin at 6'2", 260 just tore through the corporation when in a similar circumstance. I don't understand that booking, and it made him, a weak man, look like a dying dog. Very, very good opinion. The Big Show, in my opinion, has been one of the big misses of the last 20 years. Has he had a solid career? Yes. Could have he had been bigger and better? Oh, hell yeah. And then Austin didn't say that. But you have basically a more athletically gifted version of Andre the Giant. Between the face-heel turns, that they turned him face and heel so many times it's ridiculous. Between the goofy gimmicks they gave him, the diarrhea, the Shokishi, the Showster, him losing gimmick matches to Floyd Mayweather, Akibono. The Big Show should have been this generation's Andre the Giant. And I agree with what he said. My biggest disappointment now, however, was El Gigante. Or Giant Gonzalez. Either way you go with it. If you remember El Gigante or Giant Gonzalez, most famously, he's in WrestleMania 9 wrestling The Undertaker. He's one of the people in the streak. He had the painted on abs bodysuit with random patches of Sasquatch hair. The thing that I didn't get is he was a basketball player that was signed by the Atlanta Hawks, and this is where the story goes, folks, and I'm going a little inside here. He was signed by the Atlanta Hawks, didn't quite make the team. The Atlanta Hawks were also owned by Ted Turner. They call him up and say, hey, why don't you try this guy out? He's from Argentina. He has a good look. He has great size. So I say, okay. They train him, bring him up, and the guy was a monster. He was head and shoulders bigger than anybody else. I believe he was 7'8", 7'7". However, he couldn't walk without tripping over himself. It disappointed me because when you see him, especially as El Gigante, or before he did the whole bodysuit thing, he had an intimidating look and he had an intimidating style. I think maybe if they would have took a couple years and kept him training under wraps and then debuted him as a fully well-rounded out wrestler, who knows what could have been. But anyway, we're going to go from that to our question of the week from this week. As I mentioned this week, and I mentioned it a few times in the last couple weeks, it's beginning to dawn on me. The WWE is taking a more Attitude Era style turn. Now, does that mean they're going to be cursing and showing titties all the time? Probably not. The question of the week is that I have for you guys. I know a lot of people want the Attitude Era to return. Are you guys excited to see Attitude Era Light, basically, where it's going to come back, It's not necessarily going to be the same. They won't go as far, but you'll get some of the things, like the Kane Daniel Bryan segment, the match they had at the pay-per-view, some of the more different gimmicks they've been using a bit. Let me know what you think. Hit us up on Facebook, hit us up on Twitter. Put it down where? Down in the comments. Right down there somewhere. Now we're going to go into the good segments of the night. The stuff I actually like. First up, Rob Van Dam versus Cesaro. Solid match. The two working together I've liked very much. I enjoyed the ending with Cesaro getting disqualified, giving him a more vicious side, a vicious streak. A guy that's billed as he is with the strength that he has, with a vicious streak, could be someone that dominates the WWE for a long time. Kudos to them for doing that. It doesn't hurt Rob Van Dam. Rob Van Dam's a legend. Cesaro having a vicious streak definitely helps him out, especially with him being a Paul Heyman guy. It makes him on par with a guy like Brock Lesnar, who has a known vicious streak as well. Next up, we had the Wyatt family promo. Again, I don't think there's going to be a time in the near future where their promos or their in-ring doesn't make the good segment. Bray Wyatt is so tapped into that character and so money with it that he can sing goofy songs and the crowd sings with him. Next up was a match I liked that I didn't think I was going to. Cody Rhodes versus Ryback. Like I said, they've been doing, over the past few weeks, they've been doing some really good things with the Ryback team. The teasing of Cody and Goldust breaking up, going their separate ways, is cool. I think it's going to lead to a good payoff, maybe a SummerSlam match. I enjoyed it. I didn't think I would, but I really did, and that's why it's on here. Next up is a match that I enjoyed, but it left me wanting more. Alberto Del Rio versus Daniel Bryan. Now, we've seen them wrestle in the past, and they've had better matches in the past, and they'll probably have better matches in the future. The way the storyline went, I understood why Daniel Bryan was wrestling the way he was, and how everything went down. I'd love to see these guys given a good amount of time, 25, 30-minute match. I'd like to see Alberto Del Rio be maybe one of Daniel Bryan's next opponents. I think the two of them together would mesh very well. I think Alberto Del Rio doesn't quite get the credit he deserves for being a good wrestler, mostly because he was pushed to the top way too soon. I think we could see a bigger, better match from these guys in the very near future. Coming off of that, speaking of rematches, we have Big E versus Bad News Barrett for a rematch for the Intercontinental title. Barrett picks up the win again, just as convincing of a fashion. I like that. Get that out of the way. Let's have Bad News Barrett move on to a different opponent, different feud. Let Big E go somewhere else, and maybe Big E can feud with Sheamus over the U.S. title, or Rusev in a Power Man feud, or something else like that. His Intercontinental title run it started off strong and good, and it kind of weaned out by the end. Same thing with Dean Ambrose's U.S. title run. I mean, I'm not holding Big E against it. I still think Big E is going to be a huge star. I just think for whatever reason the booking committee lost interest in that run. Now, next up wasn't a match. It was Jack Swagger and Zeb Coulter talking about who should be deported from the WWE when they're interrupted by the debuting Adam Rose. As you can see, I'm a Rosebud. He comes out with his party people, whatever you want, Rosebuds. That's what they're called. Gets the best of Swagger, runs him off. They dance away. The infectious song plays. I enjoy it. I enjoy what he's doing. I think this really is tapping into a character that we haven't seen much of. The only comparisons I can think of are exotic Adrian Street a little bit of Y2J Christian, or not Y2J, but Lionheart Chris Jericho from the WCW days, the Ayatollah of Rock and Rolla. A little bit of Special K from Ring of Honor with the party atmosphere going on, and a lot of Russell Brand. I think it's going to work. I think it'll work well. I think if done right, he really could go far with this and be a major star. I just enjoy it, to be honest with you. Last but not least, we have the 6-man tag main event match, the Wyatt family versus Shield. Wyatt family gets the upper hand when Evolution comes down to the ring. After the match, we see Evolution lay waste to Shield. After a little bit of help with the Wyatt family, Evolution standing strong. Thus, we'll most likely get a rematch at the next pay-per-view, which I'm okay with because I thought the match they had at this pay-per-view, the last pay-per-view we just had, was excellent. And last but not least, the thing that I enjoyed the most was the Mr. T commercial, talking about his mother for Mother's Day. I thought it was perfect. I thought it was great that they used that. I thought it was a nice little half-hearted smartassness with a little bit of love for mothers all over the world, which reminds me, all you mothers out there that are watching this, happy Mother's Day this weekend. All you children out there that are watching this, don't forget to wish your mother happy Mother's Day. But I digress. Let's go right into our ratings for the week. If you've seen the show before, you know we have a 1 to 5 scale. 1's a great colleague, 2's a Santino Marella, 3's a Damian Sandow, 4's a Cesaro, 5's a Daniel Bryan. I'm giving this show a 2, a Santino Marella. It was very hit or miss, but I think the bad far outweighed the good. And unfortunately, sometimes you get these. Hopefully next week it's not so much a stinker, but you never know. Hopefully they don't go on a run of them. But basically that's all I have to say about that. My name is George Coles, and this has been another episode of Heel Heat.